Wow. Thank you, Olivia, John, Alvon, and Elliot. I say it every Sunday, and I'm going to keep doing it for as long as I'm here. The music at Unity of Tampa is such a blessing to me. I know you feel the same. These guys and girls bring it every Sunday. Good morning again. You know, we spend a lot of time every week putting together our newsletter, our bulletin, sending it out, hoping that you guys read it and pay attention to it and come to the events that we advertise. This is one Sunday that I hope you didn't do that. I woke up conflicted this morning. I was like, oh, I hope they don't notice. I've changed the title and topic today for our message. I was going to talk about this thing called the divine dance, how we work our way through life between our desires and disappointments, finding spiritual meaning and purpose as we work our way more fully into an understanding of God's truth and an experience of God's grace. And I woke up very early this morning with the inspiration that I needed to change what I was going to talk about because I heard the news yesterday. In fact, I heard too much news yesterday. And I think you guys know me by now that I don't do politics from the pulpit. I don't do politics from the podium. But I was so touched in the early hours of this morning to say something that might be inspirational and aspirational for us, that we can go back out into that world this afternoon, maybe a little more inspired, a little more equipped, a little more empowered to be advocates and activists for divine love. Not for one group of people, not for one particular person, but for humanity as a whole. I think what the world needs now is just a love revolution. You know, it's time for us to stand up and to speak and live our truth. I sincerely believe that if we remain strong in faith and steadfast in love, we can make a positive contribution to our families, to our communities, and to our world. I'm troubled by what's going on out there. I prayerfully search for words and ideas to share with you. I think if we can change the world just one person, one group, one family, one community at a time, we can bring about the good that I think we all aspire to. I see us separating ourselves into groups that are aligned with ideology and values that we're in conflict with each other. We are not seeing the oneness of God's image and likeness in every human soul. We're seeing ourselves in terms of the ideas that we associate ourselves with. And we are in conflict with each other. We are demonizing each other. We are destroying each other. We're practicing the politics of destruction. I'm not advocating one side or another, one view or another. I'm trying to appeal to my and your sense of humanity. And that part of humanity inside of us that is our divine potential. That reminds us that we have a desire to be more than we are today. That we have a desire to be better than we are today. That we have a desire to aspire to something bigger than ourselves. And that if we all do that, if we just commit to that voice and that value within us that is aligned with God's truth and God's grace, then surely we will become better people and the world will become a better place for one and for all. So often I think we get caught up in disappointment and we get discouraged and we think that we can't do something to make a difference. But the truth is we can. It just takes one person. We change the world one person at a time. And you are your responsibility. The person sitting next to you is not your responsibility. You are your responsibility. You have come here to do your spiritual work. And then when you are well on the way of doing your own spiritual work, to be an encouragement and a helping hand to somebody else. Not to decide for them what their spiritual work needs to be, or how they need to do it, but simply to be a supporting, inspirational influence in their life. You know, we as a race, as a consciousness, as humanity, have come across times when we have thought we could not do any better. I'm a simple person. I'm a sportsman. I know it doesn't look like it anymore. There was a time when I could actually run. I call it jogging now. You know, even yoga jogging, so I can say, oh, it's my breathing that I'm focusing on, as these other people go whoosh, flying past me like I'm looking for parking. But I was inspired this morning to remember times in our history, in our sporting history, when we as human beings thought we couldn't do any better. And the first one that came to mind, and just a reminder in inspiration to you, was that barrier of the 4-minute mile. Do you remember that in the 1950s? I know none of you were around in the 1950s. But yeah, 1954, 1955, it was a thing in the human race. Could a human being run faster than 4 minutes, run the mile faster in 4 minutes? And most people said no. It had been tried so often and failed that we could not do it. And then Roger Bannister came along. And what did he do? He broke the 4-minute barrier. He ran the mile in under 4 minutes. And guess what happened? In the next 12 months, a whole bunch of people did it. Why? Because now it was possible. It was achievable. It was real. And we aspired to it. And now the record for the 4-minute mile is down in the 3-somethings. I mean, it's at 3:40-something, I think. That's huge difference in terms of running. And then Johnny Weissmuller. Remember Johnny Weissmuller? Who was he? Tarzan. But what was he before he was Tarzan? He was an Olympic swimmer, right? And he was this huge guy with big muscles. And he set this world record, I forget the year that it happened, for the 100-meter yards or the 100-meter, whatever it is, freestyle. And we said that's the fastest any human being could ever swim. We could never do any better than that. Well, guess what? Today in the U.S., the girls under 13, 100-meter freestyle record is faster than Johnny Weissmuller. Under 13. I sincerely believe that the God that we acknowledge as the omnipotent good in the universe shows up in us as human beings as infinite possibility and potential. That to us, nothing is impossible. No good is impossible if we would just attune ourselves to that presence and power and apply that presence and power. To our life experiences. Now, I am not calling for a revolution. I'm calling us to stand up into an evolution of thinking, an evolution of feeling, and an evolution of doing. Because the first 4 letters of the word evolution is what? Love. E-V-O-L. L-O-V-E. Love. We need once again to be strong in our faith and steadfast in love for one and for all. Ernest Holmes once said, "Love is within us. It cannot be destroyed. It can be ignored. To the extent that we abandon love, we feel that love has abandoned us. Denying love is our only problem, and embracing love our only answer. Through the power of love, we can let go of what is past and we can begin again anew. Love heals, love forgives, love makes whole. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed by things that are going on in the world right now. But I see the divine wisdom in disappointment, because disappointment awakens within me again the desire for something better, something more true, something more good. Disappointment awakens within me the desire to rediscover my capacity for love and to be a more loving influence out in the world, to be an advocate and an activist for love. Not a political party, not an ideology, not one group or another, but to be a loving influence in the world. You see, one of the keys to living with human beings that have different points of view than you do is to separate them from that ideology. Realize that there's a person and then there's a word and an act that follows that. You might not like what that person is saying and you might not like what that person is doing, but you can love the human being. You can recognize the divine child that this human being is. As you give yourself this blessing, you can extend that same blessing to others. We can live together in the oneness of this one thought, that we are all an expression of God's good. We are all busy exploring our divine potential, and we can help each other by being more loving and kind and compassionate. The calling of love is a high calling. It is the one true divine inspiration and aspiration that calls us to be all that we can be. Love is the one true and reliable high road in life. In any life situation and any life experience, the question of what would love do will always reliably serve our best and highest good, individually and collectively. And so as I close my message today, I ask you to search your heart and to find within yourself the desire for more love. Love for yourself, your family, for your country, love for all the kinds of people, regardless of race, culture, creed, gender orientation, anything that distinguishes us or distincts us from each other. Find that love within yourself. Stand up today in your own heart and be an advocate and an activist for that love. Because love in the heart opens the eyes to see the opportunity for love and the potential for loveliness in everyone, everywhere, all the time. Thank you. John's going to now lead us in a song as we prepare our hearts for meditation.